Now, let's get into a conversation that thankfully we do have time to talk about with Kristen Abram, who is a libertarian and no doubt rather happy this evening, and none other than Graham Lloyd, who's the associate editor from the Australian newspaper. We will find out his position right now. So, we've all heard, and I wanted to make sure that everyone heard all of that because I didn't want us to be accused or anyone else of cutting things off and part of the deep state and all of that other stuff that's going to go around. But Graham, something that I have found fascinating, just thinking about it in the past couple of days, and I'm not going to have the good guy, bad guy conversation, everyone else can have that. Let's compare the circumstances of, say, 2010 to now, when the distrust of institutions is something that has grown, and I would suggest at times it's grown because of the behaviour of those institutions, which has seen a person like Assange go from his original casting, self-casting as an anarchist, all the way through to what we're seeing now, where the Prime Minister is holding a press conference owning his return. That is one hell of a change in national and international mood that I think is really a big part of this story.
That's right. Good evening, Paul. Well, there has been a complete breakdown in trust, if you like, in the institutions, particularly in parts of America, to a lesser extent probably here. There's also been a huge rise in the ability and capacity of the online world. Julian Assange is presenting himself as a journalist. That's debatable. Certainly he was a publisher. He was publishing without vetting material, and he was able to do that because the internet would allow him to dump huge volumes of material. As the internet has risen, we've seen people can sort of choose their narrative, if you like, and that's all part of a big groundswell that Julian Assange was probably right at the foundation of.
Yeah, and again, Kristen, just looking at what I think is the bigger tectonic shift in and around all of this is, again, the centering of the internet as an information distribution system, as opposed to where we were in 2006, 2010, where very obviously now there are people who are heard on podcasts and seen online who have much bigger following than television stars of the United States. Now, obviously, there's that first dump of information. Then there's the second version of it, which, of course, did bring in other media organisations to start to filter through, to now a place where people wouldn't trust anything but, there are some people that would not trust anything but an outside source for news. What do you think?
Yeah. Look, I think Julian Assange has been the biggest campaigner for free speech that I have seen in my lifetime. He's been facing this for, nearly half, three-quarters of my lifetime. We went to the Libertarian Party went to the 2022 election with a free speech policy, which also outlined that to bring our boy home, bring Julian Assange home. And I am honoured to be sitting in the Sky News studio today to watch, that piece of history of bringing Julian Assange home. The thing about free speech is to ensure that we all continue to have it, you also have to protect the free speech of the people that you don't agree with, the people that are talking rubbish. It is a protection for all of us, and it is unwavering, that we all have to fight for. So Julian Assange, I do believe, is a journalist. He continued the pursuit of the truth in the public interest. And what other way would you define journalism at?
Well, Graham, also to where we are right now, and again, for those that have been committed to the show for a long time, my view, like many, has evolved and changed. I'm not jumping out of my skin tonight, but I say time served, game over, right? Because if Chelsea Manning, the person who actually took the information, is out of jail, well, then obviously the person who published it should be as well. That decision was made a long time ago. Assange spent more time behind bars. But I remember, copping a flaming from WikiLeaks because, again, I hadn't quite believed the conversion from the bloke who was on the Colbert Show a long time ago to the Walkley winning guy and all the rest of it. But, Graham, again, as narratives go, and it does look like, and this again, the tectonic shift that I find fascinating here is that Previously, it was the state and the establishment that was able to set a narrative of good guy, bad guy, right? We're now in a scenario where the state and the people who work on its behalf, whether they know or not, are nowhere near as powerful as they used to be. And that's what I found amazing, was that we had Anthony Albanese basically as loud as he could, in live, real time, not hiding, doing it right in the middle of a time when people were watching as the plane was landing, to own it and sees immense strength that comes out of the people who support Julian Assange. But I found that incredible, that it was the PM, not a minister, not somebody else. He was there front and centre, beating his chest.
Well, certainly the Prime Minister has seen that there is a groundwell of support for Julian Assange, just as there are a lot of people who don't respect what he did. But the story today, it's really a human story, isn't it? You alluded to the time that he has spent in prison, and after all of that, he has been released. It's dragged on for a long time, and it's disappointing, really, that it is an imperfect legal process. A lot of the issues of free speech and other things weren't properly tested. The time spent in prison revolved around his refusal to accept extradition. And so there, once he'd sort of put the time in the bank, it was traded off against the offence. There wasn't a big unpacking of that offence and how it relates to those broader issues of the media and free speech in a court of law. That may be the wrong place for that to have happened. But what we're left with is a man who needs to go and rebuild himself. He's obviously got the loving support of family, and that is the emotional story that people are invested in today.
Yeah, I think that moment of just look, again, we all know where the front page is going to be tomorrow and whether it's going to be sort of the fist up or it's going to be the embrace, both of those fairly obviously emotional. Kristen, again, the where to from here. Would you like to see a scenario where Assange goes quiet and rebuilds himself, or you want to hear from him sooner rather than later?
I personally think that the prison sentence hasn't ended for him. He's got a lot of work to do. I would assume he comes with a lot of, psychological trauma that he's endured through this process. He has missed his children growing up because of him campaigning for free speech. Selfishly, as a libertarian, I would love for him to come join the Libertarian Party and bang the free speech argument home. Julian Assange, if you're watching this, please come to us. But if he's not, I completely understand that. Spend some quality time with your kids. That you can't get those years back.
Well, whether there's a political future or not, I suggested earlier in the show it might be. Why? Because parliamentary privilege comes with that political experience, should he end up in the Senate or somewhere else. But we'll all find out together. Thank you very much, guys. I do appreciate it. I wanted to have that not good guy, bad guy conversation, but just to see how much our world has changed in the years since the first dump, the charging, the jailing, and now the return of Julian Assange.